ke do je 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 re zon ro je je ma do du je pon je ba sur je lam ba da re je be go ja je ja bo ja dong go zan zo du jen chan je de la na ro dang ba ba ma la je je gam bo ba pa mo zhe ba jia wan zhong gong ba ga ju la ma nan je da jiao xie jian je zo da zo jian je de na du zong xu ma me zeng ge ga da ge ma le de da dang jie la lu dang ai dang wei chao jie wo da ge lo ju zong zhe ba zhen jie la du zu ra ju lam dang zhe ba zhen jie la du zu lang zhe ba se ba zhen jie la du zu zhe ba yi zhen jie ba zhen jie la du Gong ge den jian zhe ba ran jiao yin ga ba me ba ji ba me ba da me ba wa me ba ro me ba da de do me dun jie me zhe ba ne jie jie de zo ba san jie ma nan jie dang ba de la zhang zhe de ren jie za ba la ma ji jie ku zong do jie zhen lan da da ge ju lan pe de da ge den ba dang shen jie jie do jie jin bang zhe ba ra shen jie la do zo dam ngaran zo zambo ju bu mo lam de shu ba gap zo de ne ju ni ba da sab ji juk sum yu snang de da ju ni ba de re de ju ni ba de zang ju mo lam ju gu me zo gang yin so da gu dun da zo de ka re man bo yo re de nen zo de ka re so 다 조 세드 가레리 슈바이나 제당 나랑 좀 로아 미세반데라 pen 주코 도야로 나바니 요레스 주코 도나 다 주코 도부 그더라 두중 하망에 맞서라 다 조국 책진 심백값서 주고 도야지 요레스 이나 되게 도야 돼 되네 티 도바텔레 세야 그투수 요레 세트고 요레스 당니마 다 주고 도야 초와 책진 심보인데 주고 도야 요르와 데랭가자엔다 사마야 만보요 드날들 되네 주고데 도야 돼 강아 세야 레라 요레라 되네 된다 사마츠 같이 mambo 사와이나 두고 돼야 자른 그레스 두고 근데 나랑 선조고 요래야 사마 포바 강사나 되니 포바 니사나 되니 사마터야 차그러와 당 그만로이나 양다 율롱 제바 유저라 카히라 저 진보 요러 다데 요래 되니 다 셈 그 두고 또 제나리 셈 또야인데 다 깔래 지키 대차도 요레스 셈 또야인데라 델레 야 셈데 야 자야 그치도 사만라고테 가츠 가레 사하 요레 베샤소야 땀니라 드야 단 드수 그래 델 마보치기 요레 땀니라 드야 너 마보치기 요레 다 같이 땀니라 손에 두 셈지 두고데 또르너 같이 배향만 본저 용어 본저나야 셈지 두고데 또르면서 로야 메르스 다 대니카 첨부 슈브레스 다 니카 첨부 다 대랑네 그 자야 그 민라고 가르다 다데 장주 몰란도 소 그람네드니 레라스 슈바치 다 니가 메바레스
아니네 응마 가래도 나 신동 말에 디 꼬아 말에
뭐만 보셔서 그것도
이나 디 가르스나 디 손에 겸생하네
내 부지 뭐 말이야
이나 겸생 가래 디 손에 디 인라바 가래 요래 손에 겸생
점생 두고도 니 요레스 두고도 또 말로 셈다 또야 좋아할 때
이나 디 함고서나 디 드라바 가래 요래
때 정아 디선 서도레스 아디도
이나 가르스는 계란 탐 몰라서 나 게저 디에 계란 탐서 응마가서 사게도스 디
때 처음에 게 자마도 그 두고도야 니 요레스
예 샘당 수보라 니나 양 수보티는 음마 사마사에 사당 다나 사마 사당 개박하래요.
사당 지바용 형한테
드린 음마 라고 김선.
저랑 두고 또야 열어 라마세.
그래서 걔랑 상아체를 띠는리
나모
있어서
두고
나모 또야 다나 또야 가르쳐요.
다라 또야나 다라 사마사야 열어.
음마요 말에.
형님아요 때 미부터 좀 한번 샤를 라서.
니 som다 네.
때때때마 때 저랑 인자는 파전 되게 작고 말이고. 한국 사사.
가서 알아보면.
때 저랑 그 뒤섬 거기서 뒤마서.
니는 뒤면아 뒤 전다 연금을 와서니 응음을 납고 말아 왔더니
아.
응음을 상아체. 도고도야 다나 도고도야 집어라.
다라다 두고 또 오늘 맞지 기다야 돼. 치칼라가 소원을 말이야. 맞아 두고 자는 거 요라.
그래.
또야 그 강아 하자 용용으로 봐.
니 함디 말아봐지.
함는 게 저랑 라이브 그래서 나 뒤마서.
니가 말아.
함치 라고야죠. 라고지 마라.
So sorry. So we are now in a prayer for excellent conduct of the chapter 12 of 13, and 12th chapter is the main purpose, kind of goal behind the aspiration prayer for excellent conduct. And so, for example, a person, a human being, when we don't eat, we get hungry. So but actually there's two kinds of hunger. There's like the physical hunger, that we can clear away when we eat something. So maybe in the old days, a long time ago, there was not too much food, so then maybe one wouldn't be able to do that. But anyways, now we don't really know much about that. So when we're feeling hungry, we can just eat something, and then we're not hungry, and we're full. And so the more we eat, the more full we are. But then there's the other kind of hunger, which is the hunger of the mind. And that's actually the bigger problem. Because now what do we need? What does the mind need to eat to be fulfilled, to get full? So the mind needs wealth and money and a good reputation and things like that. And actually, the more it eats of that, the more it gets of that, the more hungry it gets, which is different than when you're actually eating something. When you eat something, your belly is filled, but when your mind is never fulfilled, no matter how much you get. And so this often can get very dangerous. And so the best medicine that fulfills the mind, for example, is this prayer for excellent conduct. And there's actually nothing greater than that.
다 zampochobo molande ke kandachine tene sem to debatene ya ja ro ko yore serna sem to bande kandar nga sam ya ti ke sam no del tine tene ngalte go chanja ke tonne tene sta soso ke tene randun ten robya tel tami so ba ro cha de do de zampochobo molande so te wendu yimpin ke sam no des chokchimbo te rindu nga hi basam no dran yin ke ko mi ro ko yore nawa da mba da nawa hyandu ni ma la so ba gu hyandu mba de gawa chin ri sin ne go na nyu ya ke rag mar de ko ran yin mi ro do wa ko ran yin gar da ri te lo si de na de da be ji ri de zam de ni da yin pin ke sam no de ni zar den do yung yu ba jin sin ke res.
So then, how is this aspiration prayer for excellent conduct fulfilling the mind? So normally the mind is never really content. So there's always this feeling of, first of all, this feeling of an I, and then I want this and I want that, and we only think about what we want, and then we try to get that, and that is endless. So when you cultivate an altruistic mind, then that sense of an I will disappear. It is just like the sunlight illuminates the darkness. And so then once it's light, bright outside, then where did the darkness go? It didn't really go anywhere. You can't find it. It is just that light and dark are in direct contradiction to each other. They're like mutually exclusive. And so therefore, if you cultivate an altruistic mind, the mind will just naturally become brighter.
And the sondo and the lama chi kahila tisanji lundro na chi kawan rogins chimsang chigla lama tik nga zangchu molan do lan rogin lamna te mate lamsang sem la o tisang tin chi trong song sare samyan ro chowa tegris de te ya de tan de zangchu molan da ma trong ro la so ba tu su kap su hyun dong kho yo ba ke jumsing gre so ina ya zangchu molan de zamji deni mayin ba chi chelen de song ba chikbo chi de no ya mayin ba che de din ba chen de la ngarang zu chu ba ina ri gantar ge yun tar som sunda chi na dan de dong go ya ji ri so den dong go ya de yim be jum sin de ka ri si na den dong du da za nang do ma hi ba don ja ba za ya mayin ba chi thi da wo ke na ba mayin ba 난동 하 고부터는 지금 논트 바이나 수수줄라 삼바다 닝제라 소바다 제 대 마치바 제 지바 곰퍼지바
So for example, when a lama goes to visit a family and then you ask him where you're going and he says, I'm going to that family to recite the prayer for excellent conduct, then that person will immediately think, oh, somebody must have died there. It's because people really like to, they request for this prayer to be recited when somebody has passed away. But still, it's not just for people who have passed away, it's also for people who are alive, for anyone really. It's important for anyone to do, whether for any practitioner, whether we are old or young and so on. And what's important about it also is that we don't just recite it without knowing anything about the meaning of its content and so on. But if we really recite it as with the knowledge of the inner meaning, then love and compassion will arise in our mind. And once it has arisen, it will further increase.
tani da soso gu jula chamba da ninje ya ya je tang du de ge soso gu lu nga yi som de tani kurchu sitang ge namba de background jordo logoris jordo karen ros na keja je hin na yin la pinya tani namjor lu ke namjor yin la pinya sem ge sam no yin la pin so ge tanda ke sam no je yong yong ge yoro wa dele den da ngarang zo ro mi chi so na ji ge tin de yo de tani pin to yong gris 다 된다 인자 당 나랑 저그 잠보지부 몰란 시반데 다라 남준동 단르히자 르히자네 뭐 잠보조야리다 잠보지부 몰란 시바데 나랑 저 산제의 장초 선바 차안도야데 다 하정 장휴게 첸 토휴게 잠보 차용 거 요래 대소 차바라 코란다 린툼바게 뭐 잠보지 차고 요로와 mazambo tan zambelin dinana ngarang zu mazambo zo go yore se mazambo zoyanda ta zambo je bo mola mola patab yaba zamayin ba nandu ha ko ne tine remjin jirda tang ne tine ta dara go yo bare so.
And so then when love and compassion arises in the mind, then just naturally our kind of the expression of our body, speech and mind transforms also. For example, when you talk to someone, you will say something that's beneficial, or your physical expression towards someone will be beneficial. And in your mind, you want to benefit someone else. And so because human beings are interconnected, it brings a lot of benefit. And so when we recite this prayer of excellent conduct and we have received an explanation on its meaning, and the purpose of all of this is to make people become good people. And when like the highest limit of that is reached, one becomes a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. But this prayer makes one be of a similar kind of the same kind of kind as the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and eventually one becomes just like that. So also in a mundane sense, through this prayer, one becomes just a good person. And so therefore, when one recites this prayer, one shouldn't just recite it without understanding the meaning, but it's also important to understand the meaning. And when you understand the meaning, then transformation will gradually happen.
Ta zambo jibo molan den tu ne lu zambo ke chulam da mandarwa. Teni nga zambo chulam da mandarwa. Yi zambo chuba pa da mandarwa te tabe je go yo bare. Te ndu nga zambo chuba lu nga yi sam zambo chuba da mandarwa shibande yarab zamju jinje ni parto soso yina cha tuya lam bezunji. 소소 로 쳔보이나 제발요 말이 충청이나 제발요 말이 드니 다 소소 야보 차바자마지 인 야보 차고 섬섬노 꿀홍데 잠보 주보 몰란데 토네 용거요 바레 용야인데 인 라로파 지고 인 핑고 섬노데 로자 침보 로다 하장 그또 푹 침보지르 봐 딜로 또푹 침보데 잠보 주보 몰란네 다 소용 버 은두 대그 철로도 지기요래다. 대빈 식바 탐지 그또 니는 요바르와 되는 송교 요바르와. 드니 대던 소소 라니게 로답 되니 제용도 다 가르쳐 있으나 드니 다고매 대 하장 그 톱침보 차용 거요래. 네 가르치는 심지 잉 동답다고 말이스. 내라비네. 대 로답 돼야 컴프렌도 로답 델라양 테니 잠주 당 뎀바톤에 따라지 응고주때 데그다 ngaranzu gudunzo 대차도 요래 ngazoke 네 가레 네 핀토 토그말 찍찍가 핀토 토마다와 산산로 소소소 심흉차네 따라 용기 망보 용거 요르와 잠보죠 몰란데는 다그 지팅지 감탄지 사힌칸라 데니 저르타 파이코스는 다 몰란타나 탑소 단 데드라게 데니 로타유나 데니 심친 담지 그 로카테 저라데 로진 데나 레라포지 차도 요레스.
So when you recite this prayer for excellent conduct, what must happen is that your body must never separate from the excellent conduct, and your speech must never separate from it, and your mind must never separate from the excellent conduct. If your body, speech, and mind never separate from excellent conduct, then naturally whatever you do will just naturally become well-mannered and pleasing. It will become excellent conduct. And for that to happen, we have to make an effort. And it doesn't matter who we are, whether we are old or young. We can all make an effort in that. And then we should not actually just make an effort in becoming like that ourselves. Also, we should wish that others also become excellent in their conduct. And so, and how this can actually happen is really through this motivation that made through this recitation, this practice of the prayer of excellent conduct may benefit others. And so this aspiration that wants to benefit others is really very powerful. And this power also will help you to develop a greater courage and like an inner a strength of not giving up. And that is because you get this strength because the power of the Buddhas is so great, and the power of the Buddhas is within this prayer. So by practicing it, you're connecting the power of your own mind to the power of the Buddha's mind. That is why it becomes so powerful. So maybe sometimes you think that, why can I not help somebody else, other sentient beings? So often we kind of lose heart, and we feel we cannot help each other. But when you have this prayer, when you have this aspiration, then you will not lose heart. You will not, give up. But everything can become positive. So that's why also in this prayer itself it says, this prayer has the power to transform this ordinary world into a pure land. So basically what it all depends on is the strength of your own mind, your own determination or courage. If you have that, then any transformation really can become easy.
Das jörang ke me zambo lo yor hi ba den ta ji de je ka chun ra wa he yama na che mala labza chan chan jan ne ta ji yor to ya ke ko ka yu ta mi che ri ba yin ba wa yin ne yang pe na chorang sakhang jing na na de wetter la ma de le ka len kin ji yin na sakhang jing na le ka len sha byu ba ji yin ba yin na chorang ke de 다 샵즈 야보제 레가 야보제 드라 제데바이나 데는 맞고 름지 조랑라 돈항데 가부케티 가리라고 초아데 흉체르로 델레디는 조랑게 지당 두솔 때네 간달 mam보제게 삼느 로카드 저터고 두소 망보제게 조랑라 지스이랑 지용고 요러와 망보제게 조랑 지스이랑 지용발라 때네 데네 조랑 그거네 저 수남라소바 야젠로야 Then this sakang de la yang pin to ya imagine all this sakang na shabjo pe ya bo namjo ya bo do si den ronki mambo yo wa da sakang na re chongkang na re da tu so gawan do pen chu ba na de ben su so ke de da da jin na ju lam la so bo to ne yang da da di zambu ju ba nyam ne jia ke ko ka yo ba re.
And so now speaking about wanting to help others transform themselves into their conduct into excellent conduct. So what that actually means is it does not actually necessarily mean that you have to tell them something or teach them something or kind of give them a lesson or you don't actually have to say anything to them. So actually, if you do that, it's often very questionable. It's not sure if you really will be able to bring about any transformation that way. For example, imagine you're working in a restaurant as a waiter and you're doing your job really well. You are very polite and you work hard. And so slowly the guests visiting the restaurant will start to like you. They will feel comfortable when you serve them. And so then your good reputation as a waiter will get better and better, and people will talk about how great of a job you're doing, and many people will like you, and their mind will transform into a positive mind, and they rejoice. So basically what you are actually doing is being an example of excellent conduct, which then also inspires others when they see that without you having to say anything about it. You just are doing a good job as a waiter. And so in that way, your own merit increases. The restaurant also benefits from that because everyone is talking about that this restaurant has this great waiter, and then more people will come. Or it could be anywhere really. Whether you work in a restaurant or in a store or whatever you do, really, you can demonstrate the excellent conduct, not really through what you tell people, but really through your own conduct.
ri tene ta ti o de sabje chukson ba de zamju molang ke chi de cha durza kang so chi de cha durza shi ba de mixer ang korang ke je zoglo mix carbo ke tene ta pinto yung san da bo kandan da wo ji lo yung gre sung de tene ta saba tang ja che wo ke tene jarse changchu sun ba chu ba la mu ba gawa dongwa yo ba tan de so chama de 간tar 장축 쳔시 책 고응 바잠 지제 소소티 책들 감이 용긴 순주 참한데 더니 안데게 치드 서비스 차도 요래 송바래.
And then number 13, chapter number 13 is the tameable one for whom the aspiration prayer for excellent conduct is meant. And so that is the individual who practices this prayer. And that is really anyone who has an aspiration toward the activities of a bodhisattva, anyone who rejoices in these activities, anyone who wants to have those activities, anyone who even just likes that idea of bodhicitta. So it's for all of these disciples.
Ta ti anchula tini ta jeng hoa dang molam dang zambu ju ba ke ji dang ke ta de su xu xin ba liu da. Da yong de yong dong de la tini dong xin na ba. Som yu re de gar si na xin dong yong dong ju dong xin da. Xin dong xi ba de ke xin de ri yung sidi da zambu ju molan te tini injok do akton te na basum yo bares ta tenang tambon sin te karere sin te la jagrake to arya banda tsarya parn dana ranzas buke don papa zambu ju molan ji jarbo spateres.
So up until this point we talked about dedication and aspiration prayer in general, and also in general about this prayer for excellent conduct. And that was all the first section of this whole commentary. And now the second section is the actual text itself, so the actual commentary on this prayer. And that it consists of 3 sections. The first, number 1, is the meaning of the title. The second is the meaning of the prayer itself, which is the prayer for excellent conduct itself. And in the end, the conclusion is the dedication. So it begins with the meaning of the title. I mean, it says in the Indian language, it says it is Arya Bhadra Charya Pranitana Raja. And in Tibetan, it is Papa Sangbuchube Mönlangi Gyalbo. And in English, it is the King of Aspiration Prayers for Excellent Conduct.
Hatinang tambo jagrake de shibade mugwade la teni di namba sanje bechun de da yongkong de teni sanje chomdin de ne chongwarwa sanje chomdin de lo ni dong abjek gonro de teni da jagan pabu yor de chuchung kolokor je barwa ande ge chu de kong zin bo yin se da zanje ranzo je ne pa zu ya ba da ma yin ba ha jang kong zun bo yin teni da Arya shibande pagwa shibdongre pagwa shibande teni jitang susu jiwo le pagwa chepar dan pagwa lo dan juba dan hirap tsama pagwa di chane songko yobares teni banda shibande zangbo shibdongre zangbo teni tsarya shibande juba shibdongres parna dana shibande molam shibdongre ten nga zo ranja se dande jarbo shibdongre namju dharma ranza yodo chuchi jabu simro ta tenro ranza shipade tandari do
So then the source of this prayer, because it first says in the Indian language, so the source of this prayer is the noble land of India, which is the source of the holy Dharma. It originates from the Buddha, Shakyamuni, who was alive more than 2,500 years ago. And in the region of India, he turned the wheel of Dharma. And the Dharma that he taught is not something that he just made up, but it's something that really, it's purposeful. It has reality as it's kind of back. It's backed by reality, by how things really are. And so then the name Arya, so from Sanskrit to Tibetan and English, Arya means superior, or sometimes we say it's noble, and superior because someone who is superior to the ordinary person, superior in wisdom, in one's conduct, in one's mental capacity. So that's Arya. Then Bhadra is excellent. Charya is the conduct. Pranidhana means the aspiration prayer, and Raja is the king. For example, sometimes we say Dhamma Raja, which is the Dharma king.
oi ta de tinjuk chinde hyesa kono tani tani ba yong dong shibate ta chindu tinjuk chin de hyusarwa ta yong dong de la ka che do sna za ba ka sa je som no ya ji dong de ni ba yong dong de ni nyam de la Tani ba yong don de la de jowa chopsa dribjang ke chi to yin la dun ba hie pa ngui ye zambo ju bu molam je rabi ju dog dan ti thar to ba hie pa jin jok molam je phiu hie ba dan soms gorang nam do
So then we skip ahead to, so that was the kind of the meaning of the title of the name, and second is the actual text, the meaning of the actual text, which is explained here. It has 3 sections. The preparation, which is to accumulate, merit, and purify obscurations through the 7 branch offering, a prayer. Second is the main text, the prayer for excellent conduct, which is here divided into 16 divisions. And number 3 is the conclusion, which explains the benefits of this aspiration prayer.
Teni ta tena ga tambo jorwa chopsa dribjang ke chi de yin la dun ba shi ban da la ta yin la dun de hie ge yo ba re Yinla Dumbo Gangri Huna, Dambo the Chancellor Yinla, Niba the Chuban Burwa, Sumba the Digba Shakba, Yaba the Sunan Jis Yaranwa, Naba the Chuchun Kolo Gora Gurwa, Rubala Yangin Mandawa Yubar Sova, Dumba the Gilzawa Yonsungwa Teres.
So number 1 is the preparation, which is the accumulation of merit and purification of obscurations performed through the 7-branch prayer. And the 7 branches are prostration, making offerings, confessing negative deeds, rejoicing in merit, requesting to turn the wheel of Dharma, supplicating to not pass into nirvana, and dedicating the roots of virtue.
Tene tenang ka tambo chan sabe yin la tene gosom tumong se lunga yisom ke nyam de pha chan sarwa dang shibra su la da chan sarwa ni yo banang ke tambo gosom ke tumong chan sarwa dri.
So the first branch is prostration, and that is twofold. The first point is the common prostration of the 3 doors together, which is the prostration of body, speech, and mind together. And the second one is the prostration of each of the 3 doors individually, so separately. So first is the prostration of the 3 doors together.
Da jiran zo di rajana ne zeng di tep de ke dema ngapju ngani na tene gozon da dren gozon tene yong yo bare.
If you're following in the blue prayer book, then we are starting today at the beginning of the King of Noble Prayers, aspiring to the deeds of the excellent here, which is in the blue prayer book on page 52.
Ta tena ga gare sondo sena jinhi soda chobjun jikti na dosam hiba may singe kun dage ma lu te da tamje la lu ta nga yi tang we cha jo song ta lu nga yi som ji gon cha chak yore so la chak yore sena ta chobju ke tan jikti tamje ne yoba de dosam je sanje dene lam dewa ne rebe dev sala pa rongkhin tsola hikpa sid derwa dene me singe guns ta me tamje ke ta rada tamje ke jawo singe yimba yindo dene la me tamje ke ta jewo ro de chado yo bares kani namjin cho yumsin garejin singe ta be series du 타당고 치킨데 가만
이나 생게
망자서야
이나 티나나 생게 송금인도
엔나 생게 뭐도에 엔나 생게 가와요레 데브르 하테 생게 엔나 생게 어디니 혐말이 진짜
탐보디
body speaking
this heroic Buddha. Power Dawok Sangye.
Jinhis da dendoe. Chop jet sondoe.
Du som ge Sangye, teni chop.
Me la jure singe various melodies praise.
The power, I don't see a lion here. Isn't this a talk someone? And so, I don't know. There's something a little different here in this text, it seems.
Amazing gun song. Do something.
No, sena dusum yore. Dusum
present.
Yeah, about future, but it's just no lion. It just the heroic. Heroic sing it over. Power.
Inside. And the jago. Catching watch other. Yeah.
So it's a little different in the blue prayer book in the beginning. But so the first verse says, with purity of body, speech, and mind, I bow to all the heroic Buddhas of the past, present, and future, without exception, in every world, in all the 10 directions. So in the Tibetan text that we have here, it says like the lions, they are like lions, like, or heroic. I guess the heroic means the lions here. So it's a lion. So the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times are like lions, because they are the ones who have gone from happiness to happiness, and lion is like the king of all the animals. And similarly, those Buddhas who have walked from happiness to happiness are the supreme beings among human beings.
담보 디가 싱게 히베데 걸지 휴바이나 싱게 데 르다게 자보레라 테네 코 젠인도 냠 요레스 싱게 야 다베 젠네 코 데인도 냠 요레 데 냠데 가니 랍고 요레 콜 딘수지 요레스 심진 yin 콜 체와 진그리티 힌항당 암드라미데 보토네 용거레송 데데 콘직팅 그 머케 따라지 하고 요잔티 베디 야야 바레 이네 양데라 갑소 고고야 조데 가장 강의 휴송 생계 남진게 등인진 소 산제데 나바르도 부초 간자지나야 세르지 노문에 봐 스드라오 세네 세르지 농키미 봐 나뉴몬 그 똑초시 세르지 농키미 봐 참알레드니 고야 율레 여송어 찬니 드니 생계스 따바레스 다 데이터브 산제데라 드니 다기 당에 가르치 거래 드니 르당 나당 이 숨차 건 드니 찬사기 손바레스
So this term lion, so a lion has a certain composure. So the lion comes across really confident, walks really confident, and he's not afraid of any other animal, and they are afraid of him. So this is an example that maybe worldly people can understand, because that's why the lion is called the king of the animals. So the most important thing to understand here is also the other day we mentioned the lion-like samadhi, which is a meditative equipoise of a Buddha that is invincible. Nothing can outshine it, this mind. No external enemy or no internal afflictive emotion or thoughts. So this lion-like samadhi has conquers everything. And so that is what we prostrate to with body, speech, and mind.
데 찬 살부갑소 양 아란소 지 레담보 바든라이나 데네 믹사 사 판치야게 지 열다베지 믹스카르네 지 휴바이나 데네 데 고데아 요레스 초죠 람나 데네 지 sem나라 저 형무타바다베지 유자 단라 중화이나 데네 다 아란소 산지 쫌딘데 샥자트바 다당아조 도르지딘 자갈은 로뇽키요나 도르지딘 추티 나로드나 데네 샤자도 버거지 요레 데네 데 그바 가사갈로 요레 다 데이터 베나 데테마에 버소소 그 산제지 거 가바는 진용요나 데거데 데게 요레 데네 데 데네 델 데네 다 육단 데그람 버거톤 데위고나 데네 차 데네 예 차노 그 차자 손 뽕호토니마 데네 차라데 낭라 차카고도 요레 딘테크마 차노 차자세 고얀데 두기 이어 탐제라 야르송아 데케 담송 차용고 요레 데네 차용바데 데네 데케 다라데 코르가 다라빵라 저야네 데네 데 냠야 차자 제도 요래 냠야 시드다 띵인질은 뭐요 봐 띵인질은 뭐요도 에더니 다 간다르 낭가 남도 탐제게 파치지 못합 다도 송유 네처 차도 요래 봐 ngaran so gom ja tna be namto chang chong chi du samsa ngaran so jar thup ko yore namto to sola te nga so namto ji san rang de nga so pham ro ko yore ma to tna be de xia ja ta ba de ni ko sen do ke na ba jin de de ta de ni chu nam ni yo de yo ba de tna ji gom go yore is chu nam yo do ra.
And so then you prostrate to the Buddha. For a beginning practitioner, it might be good to have an actual a representation of the Buddha, because that makes it easier for us as a reference point. Because if we just say the Buddhas of the 10 directions, it just seems incomprehensible. So, for example, there is one good image of the Buddha as he appears in Bodh Gaya. If you have been in India and Bodh Gaya, you might have seen the Buddha statue inside the big stupa in Bodh Gaya. And then there's really statues all over. So wherever there is a Buddha statue, that's fine, any statue. So then you have this image before you, and or you visualize, so you have the Buddha is sitting, and his right hand is in the earth touching mudra, which is his palms down covering the knee. And that is a sign of having defeated the 4 Mara demons. And his left hand is in the meditation mudra in his lap. And that is a sign of his unwavering samadhi. When the mind is in a state of unwavering samadhi, then that state of mind can overcome any kind of thought or afflictive emotion. And that's really how it actually is. Even now when we are meditating and sometimes all kinds of thoughts and afflictive emotions arise, if the mind is in a meditative state of samadhi, then we overcome these. And if not, if we follow these thoughts, then it will be our own loss after all. So that is the hand gestures of the Buddha, and then the Buddha is of golden complexion and he is dressed in a Dharma robe.
Tene te ke xiar tene xiar de zum jungze yo de ba je gong go yo re. Xiar gen zum de ke tene kong ke tukju ke zewa de chung ko yo re. Tene jing go yo re nga zok de semla de ne de ke zewa de. Tene jin de so da ma 용수 줘봐 좀 대와 많이 봐 중세 마 다시 가자 마 좀 대와 합되는 진좀더 삼상로 요리나 단다 많이 봐 단다 when 되니 라우리나 있더니 거 용딘 수tin 단다지 고고래 되니 라우리나 거 용딘 수tin 고라잖아 되니 다내 뇌인지 남가라서 뇌인지 남가 세주대 남중 알아서 나고 건자는 대빈든 뇌인지 남가 그 세기대 애니라야 데비드 애니야 트럭강당 디 트럭강한테 카톡 파 데비드 트럭강 데라 뇌인지 남가 송거요 바리스 데 검자든 거서 아딴 자도 요마르와 데 안다벤 저 메나체 왑시 데비드 데카란다고 마마사사 딱다 차용 거 요래 세기대 뇌인지 남가 데 양 찬치부 값어요 양데 제 소소데 이라 사포 검토미나 양 사컷 손지니 야 남테베나데 마르바체 요마레 라컨도 안토살요나 아마테란데라 데다랑 마테는 이레 샤토 마르바
mikpa komna tene tenera
미바타 공고요라 찬시데
디마나티 당가 더가이나 tene ya tagora
탕카라 초랑게 이레 검 터요나 따고 마레라 마레 소소게 누랑 검대어라 teni tangka kawayo na tel tadan de ye jima da yo na ya tadan de e na ya yo na te nan de ra ya ta zemo znes la tosa le yo na ta jin de ra de
And then the Buddha's he's smiling just a little bit, and that is a sign of his great love. And actually, so when you visualize the Buddha in this way, you also have to remember what all of that means. For example, you remember the Buddha's great love for all beings. Then his eyes are not completely closed, but maybe half open. But when you first look at it, it looks like they are closed, but they're actually not. So they are like a little bit open. That's his eyes. And so then you visualize the rest of the form as in your image, and you remember the qualities related to each part of his body. And you visualize, so if you visualize or if you have an image, then the ideal location, the position where you visualize is usually say in the space in front of you. And what that precisely means is actually it means exactly in front of you. So about an half arm's length, which is about a foot, right directly in front of you. And you basically are gazing at it when your eyes are directed slightly down towards the tip of your nose. So that means that there's no need to look up or somewhere else. So it's directly about a foot or so away from you, right in front of you. And then when you're actually prostrating, or if you're unable to really visualize it so clearly, and there's a certain image like a tanka or a statue that is somewhere else and not exactly 1 foot in front of you. For example, if it's a tanka hanging up a little higher on the wall, then you can also look up to the tanka.
teni ta hyar ni chorang la kare song ko yo ba sam na tang go yo re sen na dikpa ji yang ma ja shin ge wan phusum chopar ji rang sem ne yong sun der den san je tim ba yin zong na teni kongkes ta song singing aro ta ni shin je pa de ta wang ne teni song ko yo ba teni sam na tang ne den ra ji go yo re se
And so then and so then you visualize the Buddha like that in front of you. And then imagine that the Buddha says, do not commit any wrong, perfectly practice virtue, completely tame your own mind. This is the Buddha's teaching. And think that this teaching, this instruction is given to you by the Buddha like a lion's roar.
Da chan wande na de darong chama song teni da cha wande lu dang ai dang we cha jo song ta hi kang na ti den song song ti ke da mo bon yo ra da cha chi hi ba da zang lu ke ba je cha dang tan ra do ri ma song ba dang we shi ban de pe go ya yo re dang wa shi ba de lu dang wa nga dang wa yi dang wa som yo re lu dang wa shi ban de lu geng ne ge yap ji ba de ge yap da chuluk chuding zo ge de so Cedin Tanakatani, Kuyabchiba, Lukuba, Nakubaki, Nan Susogata, Jamro the Sundep, Ta Tesondundu Tinichi, Dratakba, Sarwa, Teni Che Masomba, Teni Tandra La Soba Tamjiang, Tango Yubarwa, the Urini Yaboyori, Teni Yi Takba Hiba, the Ta Yini, Teni Losem Chik the journey, Teni Ta Tego Yoris, Tego Yoris.
And when we prostrate, so here in the prayer it says, with purity of body, speech, and mind, I prostrate or I bow down. And so this term purity is really very significant here. So it's not just like a physical or verbal also bowing down, but it's a pure prostration of body, speech, and mind. And that is a pure body, pure speech, and pure mind. To prostrate with pure body means to prostrate respectfully and to perform a proper, authentic, true prostration. The purity of the speech means to pay respect with the speech by, for example, reciting a refuge prayer or a supplication, and then also to announce the syllables that you utter clearly and without omissions. And then pure mind, to prostrate with pure mind means to focus your mind, all gathered into one when you make prostration.
Da dedu tangwa hibetsek de yang karchimbo shure tangwa hibanda deba de muba ni zheyonganda ke tangwa cha ge yore deba de muba ni zhernde da deba de muba ni zhernde kanda je go yore sina deba hibanda ke da kantar di guba yung kong zo teni cha yong yore wa yung din tong ne deba ji muba hibada ke chaju yuba 차주 유바 그 제 용거 요래시 당가랑조 남바 산제 바인바 기가 데 휴바이나 나랑조 산제 동바 산제 좀 된데레 근데라 대바 요거리 마고리 세완데 랍토고 요마리 소소소소 그 라왕리 저런 대바 가시 용킨지 예나 근데라 차주 요거 요래시 차주 요바라 가레 차주 요거르스나 choran ke sanji la katse julung je pa na yungtin tam ji ngusar dur yung ya yor te khong ge yungtin re parents na ta ngarang cho je namchun je kanzi polo yo kanzi the football de la ra te cho la gam yungkin na teni nyang tan chin to so lan chin na ni to so ma ko ne temo ta te samong kor teni te chi mo chen khin tam je ge Teni kangba yok tang, dulo gong tang, zha yo tang sun ju, da jek samno jen koron de, sem na da, de ma zo hyaya mi ban rao je yo ra, de koran zu la, ngaran zu mi ba yo ra koran zu la. Da de nge pen chung ye, de ma yin pa su su gap sho tam je, de na yi re. Da ngaran zu san je ya, de da je yong to go yo ra. San je seren de ne, gong ge je yong din, gui nam yur, tenen zeba den tele la so batna je yingo la salar hyart ba je go yore salar hyar serendu salar hibada korang ni sarpo yore hyar hirendu hyarsa de deba de muba ni teni melong ta cha de melong de hajang zama yona tenen zuni de teni hajang sarpo hyar go yorwa gache sarpo sales senang la hyart ba na de jang ge de ge bakcha ge deng ma de jam ro to go yore sen go deng la 대점 로트드 데네 지마 조랑 라제 간다 게제 진 제바이나 산제데다 멀바이임바 니히니도 바리 니히히 베책다 가르침 뭐 휴차도 요로 보게는 니히히바데 대하자제 lower suma zamayin ba ngune hyaseng ruseng rupedeng kang deng ne de na che droit nyong so an ro cha de yorba
This term purity here, a purity of body, speech, and mind, is a very important term. So it is like maybe it's literally more like a pure, like a pure inspiration or aspiration. So basically, this term is the union of two other terms. It is the union of faith and aspiration. This particular term, purity here, which is Dangwa in Tibetan. And it is the source, really, the only way we can cultivate respect is when we cultivate faith. When we know about someone's qualities, then faith arises. And aspiration is like a fervent striving, again, interest in something. So for us Buddhist practitioners, for example, our teacher is the Buddha. And now when we speak about having faith in the Buddha, devotion, this is nothing someone can tell you you should have or shouldn't have faith. It's really your own choice. And if you do develop faith in the Buddha, then what arises in you is like a striving, a fervent striving toward the Buddha's qualities. Because special quality of the Buddha's teachings is that the more you kind of occupy yourself with it, the deeper your qualities will actually become. So then when you have really gotten deep into those teachings, then it's always in your mind. So you're just interested in that, really. For example, imagine a person who is really interested in football. If the person really likes football, then that person will always think about football day and night. Sometimes they can't even sleep at night. They still think about football, or they watch a show, or watch a game, and then after that they keep thinking about it, and they think about the game, and they even think about what kind of uniform or dress kind of they're wearing, and how they're having their hair done, and things like that. So everything is about football and how they're moving their legs and what's their skill and so on. So all they can think about is football. So that's this really deep interest in something, so interested that you can only think about that. And so this is really very similar when we get involved in the Buddha Dharma. Then we are so interested in the qualities of the Buddha. We really want to be just like that. We want to know about it, about the qualities and the way the Buddha kind of expresses himself and his enlightened activities and so forth. So all of that actually should clearly then arise in our mind. And clearly is that the Buddha appears clearly and arise clearly. So arise here means that arising is related to that faith and your aspiration. Now, faith and aspiration is like a mirror. If the mirror is clean, then the reflection, the image can be reflected very clearly. And then the more clear your own mind is, your faith and your aspiration, the more clear it is, and the more clearly the Buddha arises, the more those habitual tendencies, these imprints in the mind, will be removed from deep within. And then eventually, when that goes on later on, whenever you encounter a difficult condition or any kind of circumstances, that is really where you will then find real certainty in the undeceiving or trustworthy nature of the Buddha's teachings. And even just this term certainty, finding certainty, is a very important concept or term in Tibetan. And finding certainty also means that it's not like a temporary, a momentary thing that you have, but it's something that stays with you. because it comes from deep within you. The Tibetans say it comes from the midst of your flesh and bones and your bone marrow even. So that it becomes so sincere, so certain, because you have actually experienced, you've tasted the flavor of the teachings.
Teni da sanje la tena kandar tepa tampa tena jendu teni lu papa dang make chimancho ta tenda yong go yore teni tikap chuna make chimancho ta make chimancho hiba de ngoba tongro kanda ngoba ina te chi senka la mchu pacha mari senka la chu pacha re gahe ngodang te pe gahe kemo ge del sira ngudi ba te ke ziji cha yore gahe tigwe be ma yin la te jong ra de te kemo tigwe ji ya te so ge mo tsu ya bo marwa te sira te ne dara sanje la pe mugu to ne nguden te ya ro ba te nga zo ne de da te so yong mo yong de zo sanje ke yong din ton hi go do ma se teni 인다 돈이 용야 갈래 가보 요래야 내가 저다 산지 총사 가르스 럼번일 징로는 다 지고 산지 총사 레이스는 하람스 주모 죽사 잠을마도 산지 무슨 아주 지트고 말어 다 사테네 로르크 차는 로니동 압자 공네다 파절로 니동 죽자스 차로 요래 teni ngaran so sanje le lo ni tong trukja ke lo chunga yo re teni ngaso ke ji ta yakala khabo no te ta ngone ke khong ge yong din de kar chimba zewa nubas jinze nusom ta sanje ke jinze nusom to so teni ha ko go yo ta de ha ko so ma ina de sanje le chona de pa ma yo se ne ka de wa ina yang kam go mata ba tra chaya yo res.
Then it is said that one's devotion, the devotion and one's faith have to be so strong. In the Buddha, have to be so strong that your hairs and the pores and your hairs stand on end, like goosebumps, and so strong that your eyes are filled with tears, basically that you cry. And so actually when it comes to crying, there is different kinds of crying, and they're not all bad, like kind of negative. So for example, sometimes we cry when something bad happens, sometimes we cry, which is probably the worst kind, is when we cry when someone experiences a misfortune and then you laugh so hard that you have to cry. So that's the worst kind of crying. And then the best kind of crying is when you cry out of devotion for the Buddha. And in order to really have such a devotion, you have to understand the Buddha's qualities. Otherwise it will be difficult to feel anything. So for example, when you go to the Buddha's birthplace, Lumbini, and right now, nowadays, maybe you can point your finger at that spot where the Buddha was born, but you can't see the Buddha directly there because the Buddha was alive almost 2,600 years ago. So we are basically 2,600 years younger than the Buddha, and therefore it will be hard to see him directly. But what we need to understand, what we need to see in the Buddha is the Buddha's qualities, which basically threefold. The Buddha possesses omniscience, Buddha possesses compassion, and also has the power to grant protection. And that is something we need to understand, because if you really understand these qualities, then even if someone would demand of you that you must not have devotion in the Buddha, you just couldn't help yourself. You just couldn't help but feel devotion.
Gahe kete sung go yore nga namba che lo mambo la nyalni che ni ke yung ya ma dos Churangane Hasan Resign Deba Yan Yowe. Yaman Chik Luna Papa Danya Johnson is a package at Tibaina. That's okay, John Mazon, Sitzelin Jayumbaina. Then Namba Sanje Buchuk Yunya Mipa Marisi. Churang on the Tarong de Tangoya Chakin de Matambaris. Then that Zota Chad Yuru, Chik Zupon Lagman de Dung Ubuton, the Rachad Yore. Then the passage then Carpus Sanji Chutamji Yungsak Kongda Vichad Yore. Then the end of Soka, that debate. Then debate that go at the hack, go in the deba, go a hack goats and then debalm Yarjeton de Dechinatini. Deba, there. Namjung at so the lots of Dungeon Ankar and Dungeon Ankar Sungdoa. Dungeon Ankar Che Nang Sang Som Yuri, check want to say in Dungeon Ankang Tata Hut Simba. Nang Nanka Hibande Kareri, Simni Jan Nanka Yangba La Song Jitin Songo, Simni, Simji Korante Chad Euro. The depart, Sim Churang Sim the Depong all lengths Jertobaina, then a tingle of Maharpak Sanje Ganji Yomare. Dingle the Haramina, Sanje Tin and Matsip Sanje and the Sanje Marie Lap Chogerangazok. Da Churang Simnik Nanka Yamba Dingle Har Sanji Dusum Sanje Sama Hargris. Or din and a Dusum Sanje Sanje Tonraji Nanke Gubja Korga Harya, J. Harma Yalana, that is Sanje the Paja Sanje member Tares. Ra Tarimato, that they Messibara Hagri, Sanje Corontina Haya coach, Chuni Chatsa Yorova.
So sometimes somebody might say that I've been a Buddhist for so many years and I've practiced for so many years and nothing's happening. And so then when I can ask them back, so then have you ever really developed such a devotion that, you really feel it from deep within and you had like, goosebumps? Then person might say no. And then I can say, then that doesn't mean that nothing's happening when you practice the Buddha Dharma. It just means that you still have not really brought together all the necessary conditions for things to happen. So I'm not saying that to offend anyone. It is just often what happens. And so anyways, faith, devotion is really the source, the foundation of the Buddha Dharma, of the practice. And if you understand its importance, you will be able to develop it. And so now, regarding faith now, so we have mentioned before that we, for example, visualize a deity in the space in front of us. And this space actually is threefold. There is the outer, inner, and secret space. The outer space is the space right in front of you, for example, this 1 foot in front of you. And so then that's where you visualize the deity. The inner space, Jigten Sumgön had said, is the vast open space of mind itself. And that inner space has to transform into faith. And when this space becomes like filled with devotion, then there is no Buddha that cannot appear within your mind. Then it all appears within the space of your mind. All the Buddhas of the 3 times. So for example, if there would be 1,000 Buddhas, and if only 999 of those Buddhas appear in your mind, then that would mean that one Buddha isn't really a Buddha. Because if he would be a real Buddha, he would appear in your mind, because all the Buddhas appear in your mind. So that's just the nature of your mind.
Tani da deri tani da niba jeb gosum jebda da chan sarwa se gosum jebda kaka la chan sarwa dan de nang ge dangbo luji gon chan sarwa niba yi gon chan sarwa sumba nga gon chan sarwa so da dangbo luji gon chan sarwa de de mani jigyani sabje na do
이 니바 던절 말아봐 따로.
돈들 말해
말아봐.
돈들 참 말해 요 저는 돈들 가래 나 돈들 휴차인 봐 돈들 다 휴차인 다다 그 돈들 다 휴차인
Sorry, we have different page numbers. Okay. So then, so that was first the prostration of the three doors together, and now second is the prostration of the three doors separately. So the prostration of the body and prostration of the speech, prostration of the mind second, and third prostration of the speech.
Tenanga da dambo luji goni chansawa shibandela zambo jup monlam tobda gis demhombana yoro jawa tamji yiji unsum to henge durni lurap tu bae jawa kun la rap to chansa loso da zambo jup monlam tobda gis da jawa shibande nyumung ba tamji le jawas duige le jawas 탐제 서드 다 산제 탐제 되는 산제 탐제 뇨몽 발 마자나 산제 작 말바 된서 산제 탐제 이중운섬도 다 다시 거는 기반은 이중운섬도 저 샤고요 다 샤와데 가리토고 샤고였으나 잠보주부 몰라도 또 샤고요래 잠보주부 몰라도 또 샤르 요래스나 샤르 요래스 베나 코란 소소로 톱제 요래 베나 따라 가서 그 다른 보절 카바다나 뭐도 그게 고도 Then also doesn't the gate chimbo katse jaba in a random gun son. Then Bernard in New York Tower gate package gejaji here gon kapa min go marawa. The yindo Sanje Tamji Din Rinzig that Nubanda wote Zambo Jubo Molam den Yuri. The top gaze that Sanje Tanji Musam the Church Dindi Hutardu, Tangatsu Karegori. Heng durni lurap tu bae so ta nga chu tor go yore nga chu lu de nga chu ndi lu go go nde chi bo lu chi bo chi ga ma chan char de wa ma yin ba nga ran chu ge simjin tham chi ge lu la tor simjin tham chi ge lu la tor simjin tham chi ge lu la tor ma se heng durni se ta dor ko la ngak do je jin che in re he hyu ga inde durni se ta dor chama 다 족스 드병 뭐 참아 담제라 nga klut patr ta sanjela chansa ge jawakun lo rap chansa lo chansa wa de je yale yola de je drag tone tin ro mai ba rap singne lu nga isam chama cha lu nga lo pong ne tene de lu tang go ne tene chansa ge so chansa lo so mare.
So the first is the prostration of the body, and that is again the next verse in the blue prayer book. By the power of this aspiration of Samantabhadram, I bow with as many bodies as there are atoms in the world to all those victorious Buddhas manifest in my mind, and I pay homage to all of them. So let's see, the order is a little different here. So the victorious Buddha. So this term victorious refers to having been victorious, having conquered the afflictive emotions and the four maras, and also all of them. So all like all victorious, meaning that if one hasn't conquered all of the afflictions, then one will not become a Buddha. And so then it says in English, I manifested in my mind. So the order in the English and Tibetan is a little different. So then manifest in my mind. So what we manifest with the mind is by the power, it's kind of in Tibetan, is the power of this aspiration manifested in the mind comes together. And so it's the power of the mind that manifests here. That power is the power of mind. The manifesting mind is what gives the King of Aspiration prayer power. And so therefore anything can manifest if one makes this prayer. It has that power. For example, if you want to call someone on the phone who is far away, you can just pick up a phone and you call them. And for example, they're in New York and they're really far away, and you can still hear their voice. So the phone is that power that allows you to hear someone's voice when they're very far away. If you don't have that power, you can go to like a mountain top and scream off the top of your lungs for that person is not going to hear you because you don't have that power, which is the phone, because he's far away. So that is this is the power of this aspiration prayer of the Buddhas. And so then we have invited all of these Buddhas to come here, and having invited them, then I prostrate with as many bodies as there are atoms in the world. So then I multiply my body and imagine that all the atoms in the universe, everything that appears in the universe becomes like my body, and everything prostrates. And all the sentient beings become my body, and we all prostrate. So everything that appears and exists becomes my body, and everything prostrates to those Buddhas. And then, let's see, so it then says, I bow. So the Tibetan is a little more specific and says, like, I fully bow. So this fully also is, or completely, it's also very meaningful, because it's not just kind of a physical exercise of going down with your body, but it's really bringing together, combining your body, speech, and mind into one, and with your whole being, you fully bow, you fully prostrate.
Dan so rere yin the tsay rere yin the jumsin yore, jumsin the higo yore. De hina pinto jembo yong yore, sem ktola, ngune kan jorando. Da dina ge jumsin the kare re shubayina tambo. Da sanje tsur din ringala chakjin rawde, ngarang zu zambo jubo mola na. Dane samba da jorwa si. Da jorwa zena juba. Da dara kare hyogarda. Samba jachewa janchuk sim. Tini jorwa sinan rata di lunga ge bezor jachewa de parado simba trubo la so ba chama changdu yuzang. Da ngarang zu zambo jubo molam du ne lunga isum jik de den du yongdu. Nandu ha gobu ton du yongdu. Tini ngarang zu pe na machimbo. Dawe jik cha sumari. Machimbo hidu ma pe na je jakab je ngotin tompo simra wo je cha sumari. Jawon rawo je. De kem runghyo tang ne chorang tel je yong do senna tene yimba de mayong kami cha sumari wa. Nga ma chitang kam tam je ta mayong rayong cha wa. Jabo je ge chorang la ten runghyo tang ne hyo lam na ta nga yong tu samar lab thoma rasa je ke. Jabo de la. De yundo ta zambo jo mola de dom ke 산제 럭게 땅요도 산제 모형 탐이 차선 말다. 데코랑 춘이 차선 레스. 나초 잡보나 나초 세나다 몰람 때 가히 다히간 라임바. lunga yeso chik den dong du samba ja chewa ta jowa ja chewa percent ro samba ja chewa jangsu chen ton dong du ta sanje mayong rayong chari kanda ma pheram ba de ri dambo de ni ba de ngusum de yi ji ngusum de labdwa ta na de lang ko je chenpo yo re yi ji ngusum se de kare re ta hi gang gang ngen de he jab de lakko ta be na ma chi go le la yin ba de le dambo ka sun da dang re dan de ka so kunra namba ta we ji de tang ka ra wo ji ngun la chi khar de wa chang kan de ge yo mar da 다 산지 무스팔 되와지 다 눈지 나온걸 산지 무스팔 되요 바지 다 대답이지 하고고 요 버차니 되니 무섬더 som바레스
Actually, every single word in this prayer is really very meaningful. That's why we go through all of these words, because it's important to understand them. And because when we really understand them, then these words can really transform our mind. So this prayer for excellent conduct, as we mentioned before, it consists of those two parts: the intention, or the aspiration, and then the activity. So first, the aspiration, the mind has to be vast, a vast mind of bodhicitta. And then with that aspiration, one acts with body and speech. One makes an effort. And all practice really is included in the 6 paramitas. So then we bring together body, speech, and mind and understand the meaning of this prayer while we recite it. And if we do that, we become just like a very important person, like a king. And so when a king is when a king invites someone, then you really have, when a king invites you, you really have no choice but to go. So then when we invite the Buddhas, once we have this state of mind and we invite the Buddhas, then they have no choice but to come. And so then next in this line it says, so manifest in the mind. So he does the manifest here next term. So manifest in my mind. So manifest here is also an important term. So before we said that we visualize this as a beginning practitioner, we generate or visualize this form of a deity and so on. And here, it's not enough to just put like a statue or a tanka in front of you. That's not sufficient here. But what we need to understand here is that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the Buddhas come here directly, so they actually manifest. So it's not just something we make up, but they actually manifest here. So that's the point of manifest here.
Tene ta lu der kang siban de tanda lu de mambo ji le kare ji zhe go yo bari shu bai na sanje ge yong din de sam ji ma cha bari sanje ge yong din sam ji ma cha ba de so so cher to go yo na ganda go de da sanje ge yong din sam ji ma cha ba de top sa la ta nga rang zu ge lu sam ji ma cha ba le zhe go ba de de re lu samje macha pala truwa le tine sanje ge yongtin samje macha pa de soso non jo kyo de sunam samje macha pa sa ro kyo ba res nan de ha go go yo re nan do pe na nang kha ne nima te ma khan de tine nima u chama ngarang so melong chung chung ji tin ba na tine nima u yong so ba hyar tho re be sen hyar tho ma ra wa ti sa ko la chen bon de le sam ta wa ina ya ka che ja chi wa de so ke nima u de zang ke cha chap 토그르다 티베든가 히라 야보치 종소야 멜롱 충충다이나 말 니무 우저 참았대나 용터로에 더 말아봐 가가데 멜롱 때나 니마 파카 다른 우데다 하데 이내야 티 다데 티 라오레 다 베데 대장 야보 종마 성공다 데 간타라 데 동들이 약사리다 베 장자 야보 용도 동들이 산제 산제 마차 용딘 산제 마차 인자 대 용사라 Teni nga tsoketa de karisho karo. Lu samje machapa trogo atere. Lu samje machapa la den suna samje machapa toko yo bares.
And then it says here, bodies with as many bodies as there are atoms in the world. So why is it that we have to multiply our bodies so many times? It's because the Buddha's qualities are inconceivable. There's so many. And in order to gain these qualities ourselves, we first have to multiply. We also have to become inconceivable, just like the Buddha's qualities are inconceivable. And that is why we multiply our body in these myriad of ways. So we multiply our body as many as there are atoms in the universe, and then bowing down in that way, the inconceivable qualities of the Buddha will then come to us, and great merit, inconceivable merit, is obtained. So there's one example. For example, if the sun is shining in the sky, so there's the sunlight coming from the sun, and if you take a mirror, a small mirror, the small mirror cannot bring all the sunlight into it because it's too little. There's still more sunlight. So maybe it's not the best example. Maybe it's better to just stick to the actual meaning, which is that we multiply in inconceivable ways because the Buddha's qualities are inconceivable. That is why inconceivable bodies, in order to accumulate inconceivable merit.
Ta yin yang namje nga chonda song ge migram si betsen karere mix si ding ara so mikba ti da gomba te so chamal mikba dong yoro rem si ba de rempe yong anda den nga so return de lamsang tanda wen che hob de kala te kechik tungchi na yibin gomya te chang le tambu ka so le lapo yo mare le lapo me pa ma je te taphi che ba na sarpo yo mare sarpo me pa na sarpo che gomba tang masarwa ja gomba ni sarpo che gomba phin ta yong tin che ge yo re che ge yo re song re de za da lo de rempe yong go yo za tambu dun deni ni hyo deni sumcho deni trukjo semaro ta de changga de ta ji do chorang so su lo dan sambo to ni changga ren be pa par ne dra ji go yo re de la migram sin de so su lu de changga de sanje ge changga de dan ra we na de ge yo re yi ne da so so chama la tarang e la ba de chame ji go ngi ba yo ma kha he yang de ha de ngunzang nga ji to so la de gom de yabo jab simba kanza ina de ko chik tung chi da we che ba na de tu su de so lamsang lower de cha gom to de yabo yo resibo gom tung kin ina de kanza dan zum nga ro yo ram ra ma da de so yin e lap to ma ro mo me na ma nyam ni jing kin la da sar pa ning ba zung ri qian bo jing ri xin ba nga zong nga ka xie ren bo ka xie tong tong do de nan xin cha de yo ra
So mirim din alai mera mare. So we visualize that this term, like gradual.
mirim ai
Mirim di tin alai mera.
thế nào yo ro ma de in ndo ai migram ji ne mi ba ngama la kom di ma cha cha sen na yo ma
So it says in the text that we should visualize in stages, so gradually visualize. So this visualizing is the same visualizing that we normally do when we visualize anything in meditation. And in stages, it means gradually. So when you, for example, when you multiply your body into many forms, then as a beginning practitioner, it's not so easy to just instantly, right away, like miraculously multiply your body into these myriads of ways. And even if you try to do that, it will probably not be very clear in the mind. And it is said that it's still much better, much more beneficial to have a single clear visualization than 100 unclear visualizations. So you can multiply the visualization gradually. For example, you can start with 1 and then 7 and 20, 30, 60 and so on. So of course you don't have to do exactly those numbers, but basically you increase the number gradually. Or also when you visualize Buddhas, you increase the number gradually in that way. So it's not the same for everyone, however. One cannot say this kind of fits everyone. For example, if there's a person who has trained really well in the visualization of the 5 actualizations, the 5-fold visualization, then for them, they might be able to visualize something instantaneously too, because they're already habituated to visualizing. So the thing is that not everyone is the same. And it's just like you have different kind of fingers. You have long finger and short finger. You have 5 different fingers. So there's different kinds of individuals. Some are beginning practitioners, some are more seasoned practitioners, some are more diligent, some are less diligent, and so on.
다 되니 다 찬사드 타모자고라 락베 타모자와드 타몬데 타파 침보 초즈 제번도나나 송요레 베마 다라데 카세와나 인스 이 라바 베마 데 zumo de andame pa kase go yore gangne zumo pa kase de tamo khongtong de jar go yore mes tamo sama andar le jaya te namba tamo jar ta mari de lakwa ni andar chin tamo jawa de te tamo de ngebar de khongtong jar dega zam sam ta wa na ngune tan de tin hi tin tek chik ping ga yore nga sola nam ju chik tamo ro jar go kap so teni ang korang na yin yon de ndo na sungba na yin andar tin hi tin de gom cha de yore wa gomba mayin gomba yin so andera gom teni deltin hite teni rao khase de wana yin ja teni cha chip kapso ya ta ma ta tanda chong nin ke yo mare de ke ta ro te churang teni yar ta mar da mambo che de ta te churang ke lo sem chik de dermi pa ta te tong do ko yo wa teni mo ke lam na mala na teni la churang chu hyu ya ka le kha bo yo re de in za teni ta ngai zum chik de der ta mo ji wo la jar du teni lu ke ba ta song sa ta nga ke lu de ba ta song ma ri da sim jin da ta tam je ke lu de ba ta song teni lu go na sa ble ngi ta ta song ta mo rim ba la jar du nga ga go ne namji nga so mege ye yo tel so ba ke ba chama ta song yi ji go na steni ta nin ka la jan du yi ji go na sa ba ke ta nak so nu son la so ba ke ta de ba tham ji ta song sam ba to ne me ba je go re.
And so then when we prostrate, the way in which we should join our palms in meditation is explained in the Great Liberation Sutra. And in the sutra, it explains that you should join your palms as if holding a lotus flower. So that means so your 5 fingers touch, but not on top. The top fingers are slightly open, so not completely like tip, but a little bit open. And also the inside, in between your palms, there is a hollow space. So that means you're not joining the palms flat, like to each other like that. So they're not like pressed against each other completely flat. So there has to be some room in between the palms. If it's really flat, it's not actually a Buddhist prayer gesture. And so we think that there's this, we hold the hands and the fingers in this way, that there's this empty space in between the both palms. And actually, if you just do that, and if you think about it, to join the palms in this way and being very mindful of having a hollow empty space in between the palms as you join them actually is very helpful when it comes to developing mindfulness, because when you fold your palms, when you join your palms, you will remember, or this is what it is taught. This is how it is taught in the sutras. I should join my palms in this way. And then actually just the joining of your palms becomes meditation, because it is said that actually meditation is not just to meditate upon something, but meditation means habituation, which means to be mindful. So you're mindful of your palms, your hand gesture, and then when you're actually prostrating physically, you shouldn't look here and look there, but just focus when you prostrate. Because if you look here and there, look around, then that's a sign that your mind is not completely concentrated. And of course, it doesn't really matter if another person mentions that or not. But the problem is that when the mind is not focused, then it will be difficult for the deity to enter one's mind. And so then you touch your crown with your joined palms. And when you touch your crown, you think that now this purifies, now I'm purifying all obscurations and negative karma accumulated with the body. And not just my own, but the negative karma of all sentient beings, the physical negative karma of all sentient beings. And then when you touch when you point at your throat with your joined palms, think that now all obscurations and negative actions accumulated with the speech, such as the 4 non-virtuous actions of the speech and so forth, are purified. And then when you touch at your heart, point toward your heart with your folded palms, joined palms, think that all the obscurations and negativities from within the mind are purified. So that is negative thought or harmful thoughts and desire, covetousness or wrong views and so on. So think that all of the obscurations have become purified.
Tene ta sa cinema satolama payondu malnga shiri malnga sebate la pa ni tang pumo ni tang ten te ke trawa tes tene salama to yong bakapso ta te kapso tene ta mikpa te la mikpa sena ta nyumo ba nga jaba ta song sa nyumo to nga jaba ta song sam tanda chi go yore tene ya jansa ji du ya ni du tang la tene de sanje la kunga wo ke tene gelong je ge ti rinser chu tin je la cha pyu de ta te la phiyong ka che yore sene sanje la jaba ti du sanje ke kunga wo ke di ke cha jing chi bo ke sunam de la korang ke lu korang zupo chapsang ke wo sa ke wo la wo ni ma zhen de du wan qin ser ji sa ye sin dang sa ke ma ta ma ro de de wa wan qin ser ji sa ye de la ma thok par ke dor sa ke dor ka che yo ba di dor ke zhang de nyam su nam thok yo so pinyon de zam yo re ta di pinyon de so sen sen le ser jin de ba dini ya lang go ra ta ya lang yong ba gap su dini ta 산제 저 거용딘 송거용딘 톡주용딘 데네 구송도 용딘 데네 다라데 용 데네 용딘 틀레 데다 산제 저 거송 톡 용딘 틀레 안도 데게 신랍다 노트 담제 데네 템송 산네 다 데이터베지 제네 데네 차드 푸바이나 데네 다 소남 삼지만 잡아 요르 다 데이터 용와라 차드 좀 푸드다 남주 장간도 소데 따테스 조보 마제란지리 마도케 갈레 따포치나 데네 삼노 동롱도와 데 삼노도 검선나 데 동롱이 바체요 말랑상 그 거르고 요르상 거마하데 마옴바타로 타피 마데바다 타피 마제 바따라 용토 마도세 단다 mambo ka yang to gris chona tafi chu ma je ro te ka mo la go ro tafi ma je te karen o da ma tu ba re tu de ba te da su de ma ni de re gen ding go de ding to mo sam san ro yo ro ba cha ma dim ma ta te ma gon ni da re gom so wa na te nga rang zu de mambo ji sem nang la hi zu chu tam je sem nang lo yo ro ba je da 대 희수치즈 대전에 살론 통로 니마라가 가르사고 대 참한 셈나 여러 대라 검순 따라와
And then we prostrate, then we go down and we touch. First we touch 5 body parts, 5 places onto the ground, which is our 2 palms, our 2 knees, and the forehead. So those 5 parts touch the ground. And at that time, you should think that by touching the ground with these 5 parts, all the 5 afflictive emotions and their imprints become purified. And then after touching the ground, you stretch out. So you come to lie flat on the ground. And regarding the benefit of doing that, when the Buddha was alive and together with his attendant Ananda, they saw a monk prostrating to a relic stupa. And so then Ananda asked the Buddha, what kind of benefit comes from prostrating in this way, like this monk is prostrating. And the Buddha then said, if one prostrates in an authentic way, just like this monk, then the merit will be so great, as great as like every little dust particle that lies below that person's body, lying flat on the ground when they're doing prostrations. So every dust particle that is covered by their body becomes like a universe with all the continents and so on, and so many inconceivable universes basically. So the merit will be equal to offering inconceivable universes. So we have to really think about the benefits in this way when we prostrate, when you go down. Then when you come back up, then think that by coming up, I am taking up all the Buddha's qualities of his enlightened body, speech, mind, his enlightened activities, his enlightened qualities. All his blessings and powers dissolve into me. And if you prostrate in this way, the merit is inconceivable. Of course, sometimes when you are accumulating numbers of prostrations, then sometimes it's hard to visualize all of that because it happens all so fast. You're doing fast prostrations. But it's better to first actually habituate to it slowly, to do the prostrations slower, and then once you really have familiarized yourself with all the visualizations and the meaning of it all, then you can begin to prostrate a little faster. If not, if you're not able to visualize in this way, then you should still keep trying in a slow way until it becomes really clear in your mind. So sometimes people feel that, I'm just not able to think about all of that when I'm prostrating, all of these parts, remember all of that, right? So now I'm purifying the afflictive emotions and now this and now that. It's just too much. And so people feel that they are not able to keep it all in mind. But actually, it is just a sign that you maybe haven't tried hard enough and that you have not habituated to it. Because everything is within your mind. Actually, everything that is to be known in the universe already exists within your own mind. So we just have to familiarize ourselves with it. For example, when you're eating and drinking every day, you don't even have to think about it. It just happens automatically. It's really effortless. And the reason why it's so easy, so automatic, is because you already have habituated to it.
yin yang de zhuo la ra le ge yu zang yang chirang zuo ji de dai wen ren ji mang bo gong ya la zhuo tang mi ji zang gong ya la zhuo tang yu bu ton de dai na den zhe ge yu re da den zhe ge yu re ta ji de da la de chap chang ji go de ma je na cha ci ya mi ba de na ma re s.
But then also, the way you practice also depends on your own feeling about it, what works best for you. So, for example, if you're not able to visualize all of these different levels that we have just mentioned all in one, you can just focus on one of them first and habituate to that, and then later include the other ones. So therefore it doesn't mean that you cannot do prostrations before you have memorized all of these qualities. It does not mean that.
Da de ni ba yi ji go ne chan sa was. Durje ting na durni sanje nam sanje seje wu na yukpa da de tar chu ji ying na malu pa tamji jarwa da ki kangwar mu song. Da de yi ji go ne chan sa wa da yi ji go ne chan sa wa zo yong ding jin bu go ne chan sa wa cha de ra.
Then second is the prostration of the mind. And it says, I conceive the entire realm of truth to be completely filled with enlightened ones. On each atom, I imagine there to be as many Buddhas as atoms in the world, each Buddha surrounded by many bodhisattvas. So again, here when we reach that, again, we have to remember the qualities of the Buddha.
Da dur hibande tambo dur jikten na durni hibande te nenga chenbo cha de yore nenga de kanda cha songa re shubai na dur ngaso ke ta hinkam samji me cha ba sen du ta te kawa yore samsam trawa de la yong yore den du ta dur re kala dur ti mambo yore si den tambo dur hibade namba sanje bi yonglo na dur ke men ka che yoris na tambo dur charap ta dur ha chang ke chawa ke rap te men la dur charap seri ten tele chungze ya chewa de la dutin seri dutin te ya che endu chadul se ma so chadur chare chadur ten chadur de ya che endu chudur chare chugdur Chok dur de ya cher chan de rong dur char rong dur rong dur ya chan de dar log dur char log dur ya chen ro de lang dur char lang pa lang yo lang go dur ya cher chan de de nizar dur char nizar nimak ser dur 다 책이
랑보치 총을 아니 니마 코랑 치래
니마가 더데 다 야라 빠 차르 봐
네 제단 랑보치 배참보다
랑보치 자면다 랑고 다 랑보치 말이야 랑고기 도 치래 봐 가르진 니마 그도 배 총총로 랑고 다 가르치 치래 랑고 배참보다 데 랑고 콜라 라가 말다 랑고 속보기들 데 속보기들 생각하래 da wrong dur ser du wrong pu che gal dur yip che he ga ser dur yip che he ga du tin cha dora da da ya sem gur da tran he long samar da tambo te luki po che go mar ba yang teni koran zu dune te la wrong dur dun la teni te tara log dur chik chag log dur chik la dur dun la du tin cha dun la tra po khorang ka khale chaki se da tra anda po chi ora tik ring thong mare khorang la cha he gon thabo mare khorang ngol cha gon Dera Jingola, Chahera,
Look po chigla.
Rubung Puchigla,
Ali ribong chigla.
Durchikala Tara Dutin Pena,
Look dunra.
look Mara Rubung Dur Gypsy Shegala, then look Durchik Chakers.
Oh, ship to shekola.
The Tech other Rigonda, Tarate Rubung Dula,
Hara chatore.
Rubung Durtin Dula, then Tarate look Durtin Chik Chaker. That the Sunny Jin.
Ship to shekoti khare.
Ah,
Ship to shekoti.
Tech other.
Oh, cha.
Nancy Mambo Yawa Mambo, Tatanka.
Chato chigla. Ayan de tini choto yongoto.
Codutin Rapa and Rotini Sakola Tabra.
Ni ship to sheko malana kasare.
You just hear them.
There's a maganting a comar.
They Pacheta Yak. The rent no Yayana. It's Chapsan and Rosamar. So told us.
Then it is so ago.
That's soon got us. Sunny here. Yak.
Didn't it not shy?
Sunny Yigone.
Okay. So we Sunny
Sunny said the Rajimal.
so anyways, okay. So we stop here.
Sunny here then read it.
Yeah, because of the time, Khenpo decided that maybe I won't translate this part
Yeah,
because it takes too much time, right?
The Rajimal.
We do it next week, and I'll make a mark in my book.
Luju going to shoot our injury.
It's because we're just starting a new kind of section here. We already finished about the body, and there's so much about the mind, so maybe we better not go too much into it right now.
Thank you very much. Thank that.
And then dedication in the yellow prayer book on page 11. First verse. By this merit may I obtain omniscience. Having defeated the enemies, my wrongdoings, may I liberate all beings who are tossed in the ocean of samsara by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Then 64. What happened? I'm confused. Unbelievable. All right. Because I had it open already. Then on page 64, verse number 21. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed.